Right now, we're good? Okay. Well, we'll get started. Good morning. Welcome to the Brownsburg Seventh-day Adventist Church on this, the 21st day of October, 2023. This is a sanctuary for sinners, not a museum for saints, absolutely. And we want more people to talk than me. We want everybody to talk. Because it does so many good things. We'll leave it at that. I am not Debbie Sponsler as previously advertised in the bulletin. Okay? So Deb texted me last night about 8 and said, I've got the flu, I can't make it. You know, can you help me out? And so you guys are stuck with me for the third Sabbath in a row. Sorry.
Makes up for that motorcycle trip.
Yeah. Good morning, sir. So at any rate, that's my story. So it was a real test if I study, if I'm prepared. And so we really do have a really good lesson this week. I thought it was. I think it's absolutely stellar. There's some good things that we'll look at. We'll look at the Tower of Babel. We'll look at Abraham. We'll look at the early church and how it kind of got spread out. Okay, and then of course this quarter we're talking about mission and the action verb of mission of what we can do. Okay, so that's kind of what we have going on. Okay, all right. Morning manna. Now, I know you guys are getting tired of this, and this will be the last time that I present it, and this is kind of like the early prelude. I'm also doing the offering call today, and I'm going to mention this as well. But if you recall, on a couple of other occasions, I've talked about the repurposing of churches, okay? And I even showed you a picture, I think, last week or 2 weeks ago about a brewery, okay? Well, lo and behold, yesterday's Wall Street Journal, okay, they always have, on Friday, they always have interesting stories about homes and people buying this and that. So it's quite interesting, you know. It's about houses that are worth $1 gazillion, quite frankly. But it's quite fascinating. So this week, it is about turning former churches into homes. And it takes a little faith. And so it's all about, around the world, of people who have taken defunct churches and turned them into their house. And so there were a couple of interesting quotes. And so here's some of the pictures of what they've done. You go, well, you know, I read this article, quite frankly, and it was sweet and sour. Okay, sweet and sour. It was like, the sour part is very obvious. It's like, isn't it sad that these churches no longer have enough usefulness and they're being repurposed? So that's very much the sad part. Okay, and that's really the punchline, okay? Now, the sweet part is some of the people would say that are redoing these churches, they would say, one of the interesting things about when they repurpose, and they're repurposing like old brick churches and stuff, and they said it is so peaceful. You know, the way the building was constructed, very thick walls, gorgeous windows. They said you walk into the various rooms, and they said it is so quiet, so peaceful, and there's a certain presence at work. And so you go, that's kind of the sweet side of that, you know. All right, so that's the, yes, Pat.
If you go, sorry, if you go out to going from here to Danville on 300 in Washington, there's a house there that was a church. That's probably been a house for a good 20 years or more. And then there's one on 300, go just north of 10th Street, going to Danville, the same thing. So they've been doing this for decades just around here.
Yeah,
Refurbishing
absolutely.
houses into homes. and
I wouldn't
stuff.
want to misconstrue that repurposing churches are something for over there. That's not true. Yeah.
I'm just saying, they're just two just from here to Danville.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And then the flip side, which is also interesting, you gotta represent both sides. The other part that I find interesting about churches is you see a lot of churches now that pop up in like a strip mall. And you go, oh, that's interesting. It really is. Kind of going where the people are, where the needs are. Interesting. All right, enough of that. What else? How about your week? What was going on with your week? Anything? Anything special? Trying to think about my week. It was just a week. And so maybe that's how you guys were. A little bit of tranquility can be okay. Okay. If not, we will move on. So, as you guys also know, one of the things that I read, and I do encourage readership, is this World magazine. It's a non-denominational magazine about world events, Christianity, and it's it is not slanted towards any religion at all. And this isn't the Catholic, this isn't the Methodist, it's not the Baptist, it's just Christianity as a whole that's represented here. And so, before I talk about a couple articles, it's quite interesting. My son, he's 26, and I was riding in the car with him this week, and he said, Dad, he works at Lilly, and I used to work at Lilly, blah, blah. So there's always this discussion about, hey, do you know so-and-so? So he says, hey, do you know Tom? Nah, I just don't know if I know Tom or not. He says, boy, it was really an interesting discussion. He said they did like a little work project, community service stuff. You have community service day. And so he worked alongside Tom, and they kind of got to know each other. And he said, this past week, he said, it was such a weird discussion, he said. I'm in the kind of little cafeteria area, warming some stuff up on my microwave, and Tom came over and started chatting with me. He said, well, Jake, my son's name is Jake. He said, Jake, how do you get your news? Where do you get your news from? And Jake kind of rambled off some stuff. And he said, well, have you ever heard of the World magazine? And he said, the World, this is Tom saying this to my son. He said, the World magazine, it's kind of the preamble that I just had. And he said, it's really a good source for people to get their news that they might not get otherwise. And so I thought about that for just a little bit, and I go, so here's Tom. He is gently evangelizing in the workplace for my son. I thought, man, that's the best thing ever. Absolutely stellar. And so then Jake, he chats with me about the World magazine. Of course, I say all sorts of things about it. And so, people are at work out there, and we just need to take every opportunity we can. So thankfully, Tom did the same thing in his workplace. So, okay. So, a couple of articles this week from the World magazine. There's a lot of discussion about sexes, okay? The two sexes in a culture of confusion, and there's a really good article on that, okay? And the article points out two really good books to read. One is The Toxic War on Masculinity, How Christianity Reconciles the Sexes, okay? So that's about the male side of things. And then there's a book called To Be a Woman, The Confusion Over Female Identity and How Christians Can Respond. She details in many ways Americans have mishandled gender, particularly zeroing in on post-industrial revolution belief that men are brutes to be civilized by religious women. So, it's very interesting. It's very interesting. I would encourage people to dig in. I think as a male, I think over my 60-some years, I think the whole masculinity thing has been under attack. Okay, I really think it has been, and we'll go. What do you guys think? And so what are some examples? What do you guys think about that? Because we'll just touch base on this for just a second.
I seen an article or something about that same title about men being under attack as they were at this fashion show, and these two men are coming down the walkway with dresses on. So,
Yeah.
They're being under attack.
Yeah.
The men have no authority over nothing, and
Yeah.
all this women live stuff, the women freedom of whatever they all want to call it, it's just really berated men to the max.
And if I look at commercials on TV, if I just take commercials on TV, oftentimes they paint the man as some bumbling idiot that doesn't know up from down. They really do. And I think that's part of it as well, that it really is misrepresented, and masculinity and femininity, men and women, play an important role in God's design, and we don't want to lose that, right?
We can see that how the devil is attacking society today. And what you just brought up is like, you're looking at the man and woman here. Society wants you to, they pervert things where now if you see a commercial on TV, it's two men or two women. Even on Hallmark, which I was very surprised. Somebody told me that even they got like homosexuals on there, or men kissing men. And that was a channel that was really Christian channel.
Right.
We can see how the devil infiltrates wherever he can see a spot that can change, make it okay. If you see it enough, it's okay.
Right.
We're okay. If you see it in time after time after time, it's normal.
Right.
But that's not what God says.
Exactly.
I'm not saying that I don't have no hate against anybody.
Right. Absolutely
But
not.
don't make everybody think that is normal. God had a plan, and the thing is we're deviating ourselves from that plan that he made for man and
Right.
woman.
And I think this forum right here, okay, the forum that we have to chat about issues is one that we need to use to share our opinions on things that are controversial in society. Because when we go outside, it's much more difficult. If we've had that discussion here, it helps prep us a little bit. So that's the whole idea, Okay, next item. The next two articles strangely fit right in with today's lesson. Okay, so I'm just going to give you a little thumbnail sketch of these two articles, but they fit perfectly into today's lesson. And the first title, again, it's a book review. It's called Scientism Meets Its Match. And the name of the book is Science After Babel. Science After Babel. And it's quite interesting in that this author says, without going too far into the lesson, the Tower of Babel, what was the fault line in the Tower of Babel? It was.
Or they were trying to reach it up to the Lord.
It was man having self-interest in being all-knowing that we are going to we are going to do something awesome just for ourselves.
Right. It was a self-contained mentality that we are going to live in this place. It's all about us. We're going to stay together, and we're just going to be united. Just
Yeah.
us.
Yeah.
Nobody else. Just us.
Right, right. And so this person, this person has a very intriguing concept that says science has kind of become today's Tower of Babel, in that people, scientists will, and this guy's a scientist, and he's saying scientists are too much self-serving and not taking into account the gospel side of, science. So, really a good article. Okay, now the next one, I used to be much more of a baseball fan than I am now, just because I'm just not. Okay, however, one of the names that I recall being a kid was Bobby Richardson. Okay, New York Yankees, famous baseball player. Bobby Richardson, didn't really know much about him. And so here was an article about Bobby Richardson, and it's a most valuable player is the name of the article. So Bobby Richardson was very much a Christian man playing baseball, okay? And so the article goes on and says, there were not many outspoken Christians filled in the clubhouse back then, okay, back in the day, which was like the 60s. So kind of reset yourself to the 60s. And he says, there weren't many Christians in the clubhouse. When I first started out, there were just 2 or 3. This is Bobby Richardson saying that. Shockingly, the announcer for the Yankees was also a Christian and a mission-seeking guy. Okay, the announcer for the Yankees, but a lot of this was kind of muted or undercover, so to speak. Okay, and so one day the announcer says, Bobby, there's this church that we can go to. You'll be back in time for batting practice. Blah 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 blah. So he gets several of the players. He also invites several of the players to go with him, and Mickey Mantle, shockingly, was one of them. Reluctantly, but Mickey Mantle was one of them. You guys know the name Mickey Mantle. So they go to this service, and they come back late. Okay, they come back late, and so the outgrowth of that was, well, instead of us having to go to a service outside of the stadium, we will have worship inside. And we'll have worship in the clubhouse for those who want to have worship in the clubhouse. And so that was the beginning. That was the beginning of clubhouse worship. And in this case, it was baseball. But a good story is if you ever look at like a football game, at the end of a football game, the cameras don't really show it, but there's a handful of players from both sides. They will gather at midfield, and they will all have a prayer. TV doesn't really show that, but it's this activity started all of that kind of mission and evangelism. And Bobby Richardson was very reluctant, to do this, but he did it. Okay, so those are a couple things I want to bring to you guys. With that, let's move into the lesson. All right, so we are going to look at several stories, and they are stories that you guys know, that you know well, okay? One, Tower of Babel. We'll go through that. We'll talk about Abraham, and his mission. Okay, we'll go through that. We'll go through Acts chapter 8, 1 to 4, when the church was under attack and people dispersed. We'll talk about that. And then we'll close. Okay? All right. Genesis 11, 1 to 9. Let's read Genesis 11, 1 to 9. It's the Tower of Babel. And so let's keep in mind this quarter is all about mission, all right? So here we go. The Tower of Babel. Now the whole world had one language and a common speech. As people moved eastward, which way would be eastward? Eastward would be
Depends which direction you're walking.
yeah. As people moved eastward, they found a plain in Shinar and settled there. Verse 3. They said to each other, "Come, let's make bricks and bake them thoroughly." They used brick instead of stone and a tar for mortar. Then they said, "Come, let us build ourselves a city with a tower that reaches to the heavens." And here's the punchline, right? Did they say they wanted to build this tower so they could be close to God?
No, name.
Well,
Make a name for ourselves.
they wanted to make a name for themselves, right? What's up with that?
Be important.
To be important, right? We're the city. If they're going to advertise on Travel and Leisure, they would advertise that says, "We're the only city with the tower that goes to heaven." Right?
Just think of the tower there. If you think about it, years ago, Sears Tower used to be the tallest building and everything else. Remember, people used to go there and look out and see the whole city. And then you got Dubai. Every country's got a tower that's got to be a little taller than what you have, because they want to be in the record book as we have the tallest building in the world.
Right.
And they might just have towers up to a certain point livable, and then they'll put architectural designs and up to make it a little extra, 10 feet more than the other one, And so we can see that this is happening today,
Right.
where people are just, it's all about we want to be the one
Right.
to have the tallest.
Exactly.
So people are going to admire us.
Yeah. We're great. I'm the architect. I'm the architect that built this. Okay, so that we may make a name for ourselves, otherwise we will be scattered over the face of the whole earth. Otherwise, we will be scattered across the earth. What's wrong with that? Why were they feeling that way? We're going to build this city. We're going to build a tower. We're going to make a great name for ourselves. And if we don't do that, we're going to go out to hither and yon.
Oh, I just said that's what they were supposed to do, to go out so they can witness.
So they wanted to be very comfortable, right? They wanted to be very comfortable living within their own wall, with just themselves, an exclusive place, and it wasn't just any place. It was going to be a tower that people went, "Oof, these people are special," right?
Only one unique people. There are no other people like them.
Unique people. They wanted to be unique. Not just any. They weren't letting anybody into the city, right? They were going, "Oof, it's a closed society," right?
Bruce, don't we see that today, though? I'm going to use, and it happens in every state, every big city. But I'm going to use New York as an example. New York is known as the melting pot of the nation. If you go to New York, you've got communities that are strictly Italian, okay? Strictly Greek, Chinese. all these different ethnic groups. And they do that for a purpose, because when they go in there, when you migrate to New York, you're going to go where you understand, number one, the language. Your customs are the same as theirs. Hey, you don't have to change your diet because you got the same taste they do. You're
Right.
eating the same food. In other words, we don't want the change.
Right.
And so they have that community mentality that everybody's got their own community within the place. And that happens here in Chicago. If you go to Chicago, you see Chinatown, they got Little Italy, Little Mexico, Little
So-
Town, they got all these places.
So let's examine that for just a minute. We're going two different levels. So why is there an Irish community or a Spanish community or a Hoosier community? Why is that? Why?
I say just so they have their own people around, so they don't have to learn different languages.
People are comfortable,
And
right?
things like that,
They're
yeah.
comfortable
And-
because the
Like
people
at home.
understand my Hoosier accent. People understand how I dress, the fact that I wear jeans, and they go, oh, you know, we all kind of fit in, we all kind of feel good, right? You get all these cultures, and people go, well, I kind of feel good being who I am. And there's more people like me, so I feel good about myself, right? Maybe? So what's the danger with that? What's wrong with that?
You never come out of your shell.
Okay? Never come out of your shell.
Meaning that you stick to one thing. It'd be like me, if I only ate spaghetti, I would never know what baked potato was like unless I ventured out and ate a baked potato.
Yep.
You know, I'd say, well, I'll never eat a baked potato because I've eaten spaghetti all my life.
Yeah.
And that sauce
Yeah.
and the Parmesan. But we're scared to go outside of our zone.
So let me stop right there and then go, let's point the mirror at ourselves, okay? Yes.
Debbie had a comment. She says, I think it's also about control. If people are close, it's easier to control the people.
Uh-huh, very much so, yeah. So let's point the mirror at ourselves. I'll be controversial today. You go, how about our religion? Are we victims of that? Yes or no? Is it a trait that we have? We've got enclaves. We have enclaves, don't we? You go, and you can name them, can't you? Well, what are the enclaves? Oh, come on.
What?
Loma Linda,
Collegedale.
Andrews, Southern,
Collegedale, yeah.
Orlando, maybe Palm Springs. Come on now. It's there because we don't like that controversy of, so, well, you know, there's a whole lot of people that don't eat meat. Well, it's easier if you don't have to explain that to outsiders, right? We're here on Saturday morning. Well, we don't have to explain that to people because we're all here. You know, we have to explain.
Your faith is not questioned.
Yeah, you're not questioned.
You're
It's
not
a nice,
questioned about anything.
it's what? It is a very nice, what? Comfy zone, right? It's a very comfy zone that we live in, right? Now the flip side is I think our church maybe our organization to a fault. Okay? I think our organization to a fault perhaps has been we want to go out into all the world, and sometimes we don't take care of perhaps our own property. Okay? That's what I'm concerned with. Okay, so let's keep going. Let's kind of just meander through here. So we make a name for ourselves. Otherwise, we will be scattered over the face of the whole earth. We're going to have to break up the clique, and we're going to be all over. But the Lord came down to see the city. The Lord came to see the city. Hey, what are you guys doing? What's going on here? Yeah, where's your permit? Well, did you go through the planning commission? I don't remember seeing this come through. So the Lord came down to see the city and the tower that the people were building. And the Lord said, what do you think the next part? Did the Lord say, you engineers, you guys are doing great. Keep on building. What do you think? No. What did he say? He said, if as one people speaking the same language, they have begun to do this, then nothing they plan to do will be impossible for them. Wow, that's a big statement, huh? If they all speak the same language, nothing is impossible. How about that if you go back to the science article that I referenced a minute ago? Is there some of that at work with today's science? Nothing is impossible. If we all speak the same scientific language, nothing is impossible. They aren't saying we need a religious base. Okay, come, let us go down and confuse their language so they will not understand each other. So the Lord scattered them from there over the earth, and they stopped building the city. That is why it was called Babel, because there the Lord confused the language of the whole world. From there the Lord scattered them over the face of the whole earth. The Lord came down, huh? Hey, what's going on down here? People are doing some stuff. He keeps an eye out for us, right? Did he just stop then? Or do you think the Lord still has a bit of an eye for what's going on?
He's watching over all of us.
Did that just stop? Was that like an Old Testament thing and it was like, I'm done with that?
He knew that it would happen again.
Is it happening today? Was this just an interesting story? I don't know. Does this kind of stuff continue to happen? What is an example where men are doing, remember at the very beginning, come, let us build ourselves a city, a tower that reaches to the heavens so that we may make a name for ourselves. Is that going on today?
It is, and I just want to read something from Patriarchs and Prophets, page 123. Their confederacy was founded in rebellion, a kingdom established for self-exaltation, but in which God was to have no rule or honor. And we are literally seeing that today. And at the end of that quote, I just also want to read, it says, men were endeavoring to substitute laws to suit the purpose of their own selfish and cruel hearts. And that's exactly what's happening here in the United States, is what's happening around the globe. We're getting people who are in positions of power,
Right.
whether they're wealthy, whether they're politicians, and they're wielding and using their scepter, if you will, of power to conform and to coerce people into doing things they wouldn't otherwise do. And none of that is an earmark of obedience to God. None of that is how God ever operates. Satan operates that way.
Right.
Through lies and deceptions and then force and coercion.
Right. The ambitions of man. Is it good to be ambitious? Yeah, it's great to be ambitious, right? Very good. It produces things, right? Ambition. So when we say, well, these people were ambitious, sounds like a good thing. But what happened? It was misguided ambition, right? Misguided ambition. Yes, young lady?
They didn't have to leave God because they thought in case another flood comes, they'll be safe.
Their ambition was outside of God and God's relationship, right? That's where their ambition was, almost to replace God, right? We're going to make a name for ourselves.
They weren't concerned about God.
They weren't concerned about
No,
God.
they were concerned about themselves. That's all they were worried about.
So think about the science article that I referenced. What's going on today? Is that part of it? I think it is. I'm a STEM guy. I've had more math and science than I ever needed, okay? But the science side of this is misguided. We're looking at sometimes misguided ambition. Good morning. It's good to have you here.
Look at the internet. Everybody wants to be their 15 seconds of famous. And that's self, but at the same time, they have to put up with a bunch of accolades and a bunch of negatives.
Right.
And we see suicide climbing.
Absolutely.
Because to become famous is not necessarily
Right.
a good thing.
Exactly.
Because it's self being demonstrated. You're more concerned about self.
Mm-hmm.
And when they get these negative stuff, because they're looking, they want you to give them the good stuff, the praises.
Yep.
They can't handle it.
So you're taking us right to the right place. So then you go, misguided ambition, is that just for, the larger government corporate activities? If we come right down to ourselves, it can play a role, right? For ambition, what we have. Which is all kind of code for what? How we prioritize what things we do, right? It causes me to reflect and go, ooh, now as I'm walking here, are my ambitions what they should be, right? It's very important for us to ask that, right?
Our natural nature is me, myself, and I.
Ah, very good.
So to make a choice the other direction, you have to deny self. And this is not something the world wants.
Yep.
Because we naturally, when we have a bad day or whatever, we treat ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
Because me, myself, and I always takes care of me, myself, and I. This is what we do with the natural carnal nature. So when we accept Christ, take up your cross.
Ah,
Self
very
is our
good.
cross.
Very good. So you're going again right where we were going. That would say this ambition. What does that negate? And why this quarter we're talking about mission. So human ambition, how does that relate to God's mission? Why are we talking about the Tower of Babel in the quarter that talks about mission?
We're not supposed to all be right here. We're supposed to scatter out and do stuff. Witness.
Scatter out, witness, and also absolutely, and
Not just be in our church and never go out, We need to get out. We need to, on Sabbath afternoons after pitch-ins, they walk off the fat. Let's get out and
and now wait a minute.
now start passing out stuff around the neighborhoods and stuff.
We need to
Been trying to
be
do
community
this for
oriented.
5
okay?
years.
So that's very good. Okay, we'll move on, unless you have another comment.
Our mission, my mission, is the energetic God the Father, God the Son, and God the Holy Ghost. That's my mission. That's all of our mission.
Right.
And if that's our mission, we should be talking about that all the time.
And we want to make sure our ambition is always pointed in the right way, right? We want to make sure our ambition is pointed in the right way in all that we do, right? Easy to say, hard to do. Easy to say, hard to do. But that's why we have these lessons that go, Oh, just a little pinch point here that says, well, now let's be thinking. Let's be thinking here about what our personal ambitions are and are they guided in the right way. Okay, let's move on. Genesis 12. Genesis 12, it's a story that you guys know well. So what's the 2-minute highlight of Abraham? The story of Abraham, the Reader's Digest version. They don't even have the Reader's Digest anymore, do they? Abraham was, but the people that he left, was he like really suffering and it was like a terrible place?
No.
No. Abraham lived a very nice life, right?
Yeah, but he have to leave them.
Exactly.
And because he have to listen to God. And he was very obedient.
Abraham was living in a very nice life, very prosperous. Everything was good. And then what happened? God said, time for you to move. Right? Time for you to move. And so did Abraham, did he immediately get out his atlas and go, I just don't know. It's a long way away. I don't know the people. I just don't think I'm up for that. He didn't do that, right? Not that we can tell. I'm sure internally, being human, I'm sure he thought about all that, right? Because there's the written, and then there's also the other things that's going on. I mean, he is human. But by faith, what did he do? Packed up and left, right? Okay, so the Lord had said to Abram, go from your country and your people and your father's household to the land that I will show you. I will make you into a great nation and I will bless you. Don't we have that same promise today in our own life? I will bless you. Do we ever, as Christians, go, well, I'm probably not blessed? No. We have that same promise, right? We kind of take it for granted every now and then. But I will make you into a great nation. I will bless you. I will make your name great, and you will be a blessing. I will bless those who bless you, and whoever curses you, I will curse, and all the people of the earth will be blessed through you. So that's a
good illustration. If you've not been a Christian all your life, you're coming out of the world. And you're leaving it.
Yeah.
And you're leaving your family, not by choice, as they leave you, because you now are following God.
Right.
So people who have not been a Christian all their lives and they read this story, it's encouraging.
Ooh.
Because you're alone.
What a
And you're
great...
standing alone, and you see that God blessed Abraham, so you know he's going to bless you through this rugged experience.
What a great take. That says if you're a non-Christian, this is part of the deal, right?
Yeah.
You're going to take this walk of faith, right? A walk of faith. Okay, so let's move on to what Abraham did. So Abram went as the Lord had told him, and Lot went with him. Who was Lot? This is his wife, right? No, his uncle, his cousin, his brother. No, his nephew, right? All right. Abram was 75 years old when he set out from Haran. Hernan, we need you to go. We need you to go to LA tomorrow and start that mission.
I'm no longer 75.
See, you're behind. Abram was 75 years old when he set out. He took his wife, Sarah, his nephew, Lot, and all the possessions that he had accumulated and the people who had acquired, that he had acquired in Haran. And they set out for the land of Canaan, and they arrived there. So what's the point? What was the point of God doing this? What was the point? Why did he just go, Abram, keep on doing what you're doing. You're doing good things in Haran. Keep on doing it. Why did he not go, I've got a nice enclave here. I have a really good man that runs this place. He's prosperous. You know, check. I don't have to worry about Haran. I don't have to worry about that. Check. I'm moving on.
He wanted to test Abraham's loyalty and his faith to see if Abraham really was faithful to God. Was he going to do exactly what God wanted him to do? And we can see that throughout Abraham's journey. Abraham strengthened his faith to his God. Because it comes to the point where later in life, when he wants to sacrifice his son, and nobody in their right mind is going to say, yeah, I'm going to sacrifice my only child that I've been praying for and we've been waiting for. He did it because God told him to do it. And he was responsible person that his faith took him to that point, that he trusted God so much that he was willing to sacrifice his only son, just like Christ did with his only begotten son, Jesus,
Uh-huh.
And so we can see how far it goes, his faith and his journey.
Yeah.
And so God chose Abraham because he knew Abraham could do it. He knew beforehand that Abraham wasn't going to back off and say, ooh, my feet are getting hot, my sandals are wearing out, oh, my clothes are this, or the bug bites, or whatever, snakes. No, he knew that whatever he was going to go through, Abraham was going to be faithful to him. He wasn't going to be a complainer. He was going to do what God told him to do.
So it was a smooth sail. Abraham went to the land. No big deal, right? No, that's not true. First step out of the box, what? They get to the land and, hey, there's people here. Abraham said, wait a minute. I thought this was going to be my place. There's people here. Who are those people? It was the Canaanites, right? The evil Canaanites were there. Were they fun people? No. They weren't. Why weren't they fun? The Canaanites. Abram's going, oh no, it's the Canaanites. What a surprise. Lord, why can't I just go back? Don't you think he's going like, can't I just go back to Haran? Can't I just go back home? Right?
I'll still be me. I'll
Right?
still follow you.
I'll still be a great guy. I don't want to, the Canaanites are here. I don't want to deal with them. Come on, let me go back home. Wouldn't that be us? Clearly that would be us. I'm telling you right now, that would certainly be me. I'd be going, I didn't know this was going to happen. Let's go back home. Come on. I'll be a good guy. I'll be a good guy. I'll give twice as much of my time. Okay. The Lord appeared to Abram and said, to your offspring, I will give you this land, blah, 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 blah. And from there he went toward the hill to the east of Bethel and pitched the tent before Bethel. And he built an altar to the Lord and called the name of the Lord. And Abram set out and it continued. So let's, in the sake of time, let's just go with the punchline, a couple of punchlines, okay? So, did Abram live a perfect life as he's on this mission? No. Not so much, right? He wasn't perfect, right? He kind of had a bit of an issue, right? A little bit of an issue. And so did the Lord go, Abram, you were my guy. Abraham, you were my guy. And now we got this problem. You are going back now. Next man up. Is that what he did?
No.
So Abraham made a mistake, but the Lord still what?
Still used him.
Still used him, still trusted him, and said, you're still my guy, right? You are still my guy. Is that important for us? How many of us are going to walk out the door this week and there won't be one mistake, one sin made? Probably none. We'll go with none, okay? We'll go with none. And so Abraham did the same thing, right? He was like, oh, he's making mistakes, but the Lord said, you know, you're not getting out of it that easy. Everybody makes mistakes. You're my guy. Here we go, right? You're my guy.
The flip side of that is, at the Tower of Babel, they didn't honor him. They didn't accept him. He didn't destroy them. He didn't hurt them. He didn't condemn them.
Good point. Right.
We tend to condemn when we see errors. He just confused their language and gave them another chance.
Wouldn't it be interesting, as the follow-up, that would be Tower of Babel Part 2. What happened to the people after they spread out? What happened to them? What did they do? Were they changed? I wonder. Did they go, well, no more of that?
They started smaller communities.
So, if we had to boil it down, the last piece of this is, what lessons do we learn for us from Abraham? If you had to go, here's three points from Abraham, what would they be? Trust in the Lord, no matter what. Trust in the Lord, absolutely. Trust and faith, right? What else do we learn?
When you hear his voice speaking to you, go.
And when you hear his voice, go obey.
Another point was, even though we make mistakes in our life's journey, that doesn't mean God gives up on us. Matter of fact, what God wants us to learn from our life mistakes is, how do we grow from it? How can we, like Joyce said earlier this morning, how can we make a negative a positive?
Right.
Yeah, we went through a bad situation. How can I better it? I don't want to go through that situation I was just in. Let's better it. How can we improve ourselves to be right with God?
Yep. So let's do one more thing that would say, we're talking about the mission of this church right now. We're talking about the mission. So, you know, at some point there'll be 3 or 4 things that we'll be disposed to do as a church, okay? Now, probably it'll be a little uncomfortable. Whatever they are, it could be a little bit uncomfortable for us to do one of those 4 things. What do you think? And so, it's like, get over it, right? Right? That's the lesson, and I'm saying that to myself. It's like, get over it, right? Trust in the Lord, right? That's what the text says.
I think one thing that we forget is when we have a little bit of success as God blesses us, at that point we become comfortable and complacent. I'm reading through Patriarchs and Prophets with a friend back in Pennsylvania in chapter 54, 55, when Israel started to inhabit Canaan and dispossess the people. When they got a little bit of success and they got their bit of land and they were satisfied, they got comfortable and didn't keep pursuing. God wanted them to dispossess everybody. But because they had success and they got comfortable and they had their parcel land, well, they stopped. And when I read that last week, the thought came to me, the whole situation in the Middle East would be much, much different today had they simply obeyed God and followed his direction until everything was accomplished as he asked them to do, rather than them get comfortable. The land that they have now, they would have even more than what they have now, but because they disobeyed, and this is a theme when you read through Patriarchs and Prophets, comes up over and over and over and over and over again. Yes, he has raised people up that would break that, but as soon as they died, they would revert back, which also brings something else that's most important. Yes, God works with us when we make mistakes, but we have no idea the mistakes that we make, how far-reaching it is. Abraham had 2 sons, brothers of a common father, and look what their lineage has given us today. He still worked with Abraham as he worked with the children of Israel who would obey, but their mistakes live on. As our mistakes, if we're not listening to him, will live on. And this is, I think, one thing we downplay the most is we're like, oh yeah, I made a mistake, my bad, my bad. It's more than that. To mix alcohol and gasoline and you get in the car, 2 things can happen. There's an accident, you may die, but if you live, you may kill somebody else. That mistake lives on. You're not bringing that person back until Christ comes back. And I think that's the one thing that Satan has tripped us up on is we downplay the mistakes as though, oh, no big deal. He loves us. He forgives us. Yes, but at the same time, those mistakes still live on, and we need to keep in mind we can prevent that if we simply open up our ears and listen, and we don't. History in the Bible tells us over and over and over again that Satan is on our track every second that we're awake, trying to get us to distrust. The children of Israel are examples, but yet here we are, having this knowledge, repeating the same things again. And as I said in Sabbath school many times before, when the Bible talks about a remnant, when you look up the definition of remnant, the synonym of remnant is a residue. If you clean your kitchen and you look at the counter, hey, that looks clean, but you take your fingers and fingertips and drag the tops of the counter, all of a sudden you feel something. You can't see it, but you can feel it. That means there's something there. So the Lord's talking about a remnant at the end of time. That is a small number. It doesn't have to be this way, but we have the choice. We will repeat what people have done before us, or are we simply going to, what's the word I'm looking for? Totally surrender. We surrender as long as we can maintain 25% of what we want to do, but God has asked for 100%. Gold is only valuable when it's 100%, not 50%. It's a lot less in value.
Okay, let's move on to Acts chapter 8. We've got about 5 minutes. Acts chapter 8. The church, at the time, back in the day, what comprised the church? Who did they preach to? Was it Jews and Gentiles alike? The church. Who was the church? It was mostly Jews, right? The church was mostly Jews, and it was a novel concept, right? To go, Gentiles, we'll preach the gospel to them. Novel concept. Okay, so let's tuck that away. And Saul approved of their killing him being Jesus. On that day, a great persecution broke out against the church in Jerusalem, and all except the apostles were scattered throughout Judea and Samaria. Great persecution broke out. And so you get the idea that says, what? Great persecution broke out, and so what were people's reaction? I got to get out of here, right? I have to get out of here, right? We see that today. That happens today. It's natural. You know, if you're in a place where it's a lot of persecution going on, people leave, right? People walk. So that's what's going on. On that day, a great persecution broke out against the church in Jerusalem, and all except the apostles were scattered throughout Judea and Samaria. Godly men buried Stephen and mourned deeply for him, but Saul began destroying the church. Who's Saul? Saul would later become Paul. What's that about? I thought Paul was a good guy. What's that? Not at the beginning, right?
Was persecuting and trying to go into homes and find the Jews and have them killed.
Yeah, at the beginning, during this persecution stage, Paul was Saul, and Saul was a Pharisee, and he's like, we're going to put an end to this, right? We're going to fix this. But Saul began to destroy the church. Going from house to house, he dragged both men and women and put them in prison. And those who had been scattered preached the word wherever they went. Huge awakening, huh? Acts 1, we will close with Acts 1, verse 8. Acts 1, verse 8. We'll start with 7. He said to them, "It is not for you to know the time or the date the Father has set by his own authority." Verse 8. "But you will receive power when the Holy Spirit comes to you, and you will be my witness in Jerusalem and in all Judea and Samaria and to the ends of the earth." This quarter is all about mission, right? And right here, we pretty much have that directive right here, right? "But you will receive power from the Holy Spirit." Whatever our mission, whatever those mission elements are for our church, they'll be blessed, right? Okay? "Receive power from the Holy Spirit comes to you, and you will be my witness in Jerusalem and in Judea and in Samaria and to all ends of the earth." Okay, any last comments? Okay, thank you everybody for doing such a great job. Okay, I'll close with the word of prayer. Thank you, Lord, for letting us have a tremendous lesson study today in sharing and seeking your word. Let each one of us look at our ambitions, what your intent is for each one of us, and let us go out and fulfill your word through us. Be with us now. Amen.